Welcome everyone to Ascend's workshop on how to influence. Before we dive in, I want to ask you a couple questions, and you can just put a yes in the chat if that's you. Put a yes in the chat if you have ever tried to convince your team to support your recommendation but failed. You pitched an idea to the team and they're like, nah, we're not going to do that. That's definitely happened to me. Yes. Okay, so many of us. Put a yes in the chat if you're not sure how to get buy-in. You're not sure how to approach getting stakeholders aligned with you. All right, yes, definitely. We're going to talk about that today. And finally, put a yes in the chat if you want your ideas taken seriously. If you want your ideas heard and valued, people coming to you for your input. Put a yes in the chat if that's you. That's definitely been me. Yes. Ooh, I see lots of exclamation marks. Okay, I can feel that, like, yes, we're all on the same page. I've struggled with all of this. Hi, everyone. I'm Shivani. I'm the CEO and founder of Ascend. We offer an online leadership program for women. What inspired me to start Ascend was I used to be in your shoes. I owned and led different business and product initiatives at large companies like PayPal and high growth startups. As I was moving up to management, I learned how to get buy-in and motivate my teams by honestly making a lot of mistakes. Some guidance, but primarily a lot of mistakes. I remember when I was a product lead, my team and I were meeting to align on what are we going to build in the following quarter, our roadmap. I walked in that meeting feeling really good. I was going to pitch a recommendation feature that I thought we should build. I thought it was obvious why we should prioritize and build this first. But when I shared my idea, everyone had really confused looks and some really annoyed faces. I got asked a ton of questions. Why would we do this? Why are we doing this instead of this other product feature? I remember walking out of the meeting feeling so defeated and stressed, feeling like I failed. And I was really confused because I had actually taken the time to do the research. I knew this was a good idea. I knew this would help our customers. So I didn't understand why people didn't see that. But when I reflect on it, when I learned how to get buy-in, I understood, I actually didn't walk people through my thought process. When I learned how to get buy-in, to influence, to really empower my teams, to lead, I felt so much more confident. I was able to move up faster in my career and impact not only my teams, but also our executives and our company's board of directors. These experiences, combined with the time I spent studying at Harvard Business School to get my MBA, inspired me to start Ascend. I want to elevate more women into leadership. I believe that's a big way we see the change that we have to see in today's workplaces. But I realize that we currently learn to lead and influence through trial and error. We all know that we should get people invested in our ideas. We should stand up for ourselves. We should push back. We often don't, either because we don't know how to get started, or we don't cover the time, or we're scared, because practicing these skills at work is high stakes. If you make a mistake, it can hurt your reputation or worse. That's why I created Ascend's leadership program, to create a safe space for women like you to develop the skills to be able to gain confidence, influence, and move up faster in your career. And we're doing it. For example, Diana, who's a marketing SAP, joined Ascend last year, right when she came off maternity leave. And she used the program tools to help her have her ideas taken seriously, to drive better alignment in meetings. She improved her performance so much that she quickly got promoted after the program, and she credited the program helping her do so. The next hour is about you. It's an investment in yourself. Today, we're going to talk about getting buy-in. And here with me are two of my awesome Ascend alums, Caradine and Ellie. So they're going to share they're going to share about how they've applied the program learnings to their work. And so we'll introduce them more later on. Thanks for joining, both of you, and thanks for joining Lilia. As we go through it, feel free to throw any questions. We'll cover any questions at the end. I'll also share more about the leadership program. With that, my first question to you is really from working and really studying so many leaders, I find the key to moving up, the key to the top leaders is the ability to influence. So let me pose that question to you. Why do you think some people ascend in their careers, but others don't? Why do you think, and just drop down in the chat, why do you think some people move up, but other people don't? Maybe it's because of skills. Maybe it's because of luck. They just know how to do it. Why do you think some of your colleagues get promoted, move up, but others don't? Self-advocacy, visibility, confidence, likability. Yes, advocating, saying no, advocating for themselves. For sure. These are all really, really good. Thank you for sharing that. Fitting with the culture, they're confident, they take risks. Yes, for sure. And really, the one common factor across all the top leaders is how to influence. They all know what it takes to get people, to rally people around their ideas, to get people bought in the direction that they're pitching. And if you think about it, it makes sense. As a manager, you're not actually doing the work. You're not coding, you're not closing deals, you're not launching campaigns. You are guiding your team. You're blocking and tackling for your team. So once you move into that role, and even before that, when you're an individual contributor, it becomes really important for you to be able to influence your teams. It's like a conductor at a symphony. So the conductor at a symphony, she doesn't play the music herself. She guides the musicians to play beautiful music. It's the same way. You're doing the same thing. You are guiding your teams around what's the direction that they should take, suggesting ideas to stakeholders and rallying them around your pitch. Now, I want to share that, if I hadn't known how to influence, then my team would not have jived. You see all these smiles in this picture now. This is my team celebrating a product launch, a successful product launch. I promise you, 4 months before this was when that blow up happened that I shared with you. If I hadn't fixed my approach, if I hadn't actually learned how to influence and gotten them invested in my ideas and rebuilt that trust by doing so, we would not be all smiles here. Getting buy-in changed my trajectory as a leader, made me the leader that I actually wanted to be. Now, often a misconception is that, well, if you have great ideas, that's enough. But that's just not true. It's not obvious why your idea is good. That's false. Great ideas aren't enough. You have to get people invested. Same way as your company has a marketing department. You probably really love the product that your company builds, but yet they still invest in a marketing and sales department. Why? Because you still need to convince people to buy your product. You need to show them the benefits. Even Apple, which has an amazing product, you're probably using one or more of their products right now. Apple spends over $2 billion in marketing every year. If Apple has to pitch their products, so do you. You have to pitch your ideas. This isn't Field of Dreams. It's not, if I have a great idea, they will come, they will follow me. No, it's crowded, it's noisy out there. There's so many competing priorities. There's so many ideas. You have to get people interested in your ideas. You have to know how to influence around that. And usually, around this time I hear, yeah, but there's a secret language. People just naturally know how to influence. I want to demystify that. There is no secret language. There is no specific way anyone can learn it, even introverts. And it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to feel icky when you try to influence at work. There is a formula, though, that helps you be strategic about how to approach it. And anyone can learn this. It's like when you learn how to bake a cake. So you got a recipe, you got the ingredients, and you followed the instructions to bake that cake. It probably wasn't that good at first, but then you kept practicing and practicing to master that skill. The same way around learning how to get buy-in. Side note, I saw this picture and I was like, I have to put this in here because this cake looks delicious. I wish I had this cake when I was a kid or even now. So, it's a great example of, it looks pretty complicated with all the layers, the filling, and you can't do it on your first try, but once you learn the master the skills, anyone can do this. To show you proof of that, I want to introduce you to Althea. Althea completed Ascend's leadership program last year. She is a product manager and she joined the program because she wanted to have her ideas taken seriously. She had several stakeholders who weren't listening to what value that she brought. They were dominant personalities, including a key stakeholder, the CTO. So Althea used the program strategies to change her approach to getting alignment with them. She used the strategies to help her shape the message in a way that really resonated with her audience. For example, when she changed her approach, her relationship with the CTO transformed. They now have a really collaborative relationship. They're now looking at her to take on a larger product role because she's so good at collaborating with the other teams. This wouldn't have happened if she didn't know how to influence. She wouldn't have been able to take on more of a senior role. Now, before I share with you how to get buy-in, I want to align on why we fail to get buy-in. And when we fail to get buy-in, it is stressful, it's painful, frustrating. It hurts our relationships, it hurts our credibility. We stall out, we don't continue to move up in our careers because if we don't know how to get people influence around the value that we're bringing to the table, if people don't feel like we have valuable ideas, then we're not going to get promoted. People aren't going to come to us for projects. We fail to get buy-in for 3 big reasons. First, we assume what's on our mind is the same thing that other people are thinking. We assume the right answer is obvious, which is false. That was my mistake I made when I went to pitch that recommendation with the product team. 2, we don't think we have time. We're up against a project deadline, and so we want to just push it through to ensure that we have make sure the project delivers on time. And 3, fear of disagreement. We're afraid that someone will dissent, so we want to just push our idea through before someone can push back and say no. Now, here are the 6 ingredients to help you get buy-in. Credibility, storytelling, presence, co-creation, building allies, active listening, and building allies. You can use this approach in any situation, whether you want to get a recommendation from your team and you want them to support you, aligning on what the quarterly goals are, sharing an update on your project, even small situations. And you can do it up, down, and across with your reports, with your peers, cross-functional partners, managers, senior leaders. This works whether you are a people manager or an individual contributor. We have to get alignment all the time. So today we're going to focus on the top 3 things you need to do to get buy-in: storytelling, presence, and co-creation. Let's dive in. First is storytelling. This one is really popular in the leadership program because we all know that great leaders are great storytellers. Storytellers bring people together. It motivates and inspires them. We as humans love stories, and the best leaders are great at telling stories. It moves us. It makes us follow them. We're like, yes, I want to do that. Yes, I'm bought into those goals. Now for the foundations, there's 2 big parts of it. The first part is your message. Creating a narrative that resonates with your audience. We spend a full week and more in the leadership program talking about this, providing a step-by-step framework on how do you create that narrative that has 100% hit rate with each different stakeholder that you're messaging. Whether it is to help you structure a comment in a meeting, to help you create a presentation that you're going to spend multiple weeks working on, or an ad hoc conversation. In the program, week 1, you get a message preparation worksheet. Many of our members use that worksheet to help them prepare for meetings, even a year after completing the program. It's so useful for them to break through each of the steps. The second part is the delivery. Delivery is important. Once you have a great message, the delivery makes sure your message hits home. I'm curious, put a yes in the chat if you're guilty of rambling. You tell a lot of backstory, and so throw a yes in the chat if you're guilty of that. You put a lot of backstory and add a lot of unnecessary information, and you need to be more concise. Throw a yes in the chat if that's you. Yes. Okay, lots of yeses. So for you, practice being concise. And here's 3 things you can do. First, cut the jargon and the backstory. Think about and ask yourself, what does my stakeholder actually need to know to make a decision? And then remove everything else. Put in the appendix or just get rid of it. People can always ask you for more information if they need it. 2, share a roadmap. Offer an agenda up front to make it really clear. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Here's a decision that we need to make. And then number your points. Rational number 1, rational number 2, rational number 3. And third is use active phrases instead of passive ones. An active phrase is saying, we must hit this deadline. A passive one is deadlines are missed too often. The first one, we must hit this deadline, is so much stronger. So those are some easy fixes. Let me show you storytelling action to see how you can really embody it. So this is Kendall. She is a marketing manager at Box. And actually she's in here, which is perfect. Kendall, I'm going to share your story. And so Kendall had a last minute meeting with her manager. And she had a last minute meeting that her manager couldn't attend. And so she has shared with me that she used the program techniques to help her prepare for that last minute meeting. And we've all been dropped into meetings last minute that was really important to drive alignment with stakeholders, but we didn't know how to go about it. And so Kendall used the program tools to make sure that she was able to shape her message in a way that really hit home with her audience. I remember afterwards, she was just feeling so confident, feeling so empowered. And that's the power of storytelling. You will be able to have these tools so you can actually develop habits out of it. So even in last minute meetings, you're able to drive that change. Second, presence. Sometimes we call it executive presence. You probably all receive feedback about whether you have it or you don't. And if you haven't, then you will soon enough get a comment about your presence. Presence is a really hard trait. We know it when we see it. It's really based on how people judge us, how they perceive us. And you can really boil it down to self-confidence. It's our ability to own the room, especially in moments of stress and when we're asking a lot of questions, when we're answering a lot of questions. It's how composed are we? That's how people judge our presence. The good thing is presence doesn't have to be, we're not born with it. We can work on it over time. So put a yes in the chat if you're guilty of saying sorry. Because presence is made up of verbal cues, body language, and mindset. Put a yes in the chat if you're guilty of saying sorry. Sorry, I have a question. Sorry, I have an idea. You just say sorry as your default, even when it's not warranted. I remember when we were going through this module last year, we had Kendi in the program commented during this time. She's like, I say sorry all the time. Even when I bump into a coffee table, I say sorry to the coffee table. Yes. Sorry feels like a magical way to manage difficult personalities. Yes, yes. All right. So many yeses. So this is for you. Instead of apologizing, say these following phrases. Instead of saying sorry to bother you, say, do you have a minute? Why are you apologizing when you ask your colleague for their time to help you on a project that you're both working on together, that you both benefit on? You need their attention. You're not asking for a favor. This makes you're being very reasonable. Or instead of saying sorry, I didn't understand, just say, can you help me understand? Maybe you didn't understand, or maybe that person didn't explain it properly. Why apologize right off the bat? The reason I bring this up is because the words we use shape how we perceive ourselves and how others perceive us. I remember during this, Natalie, who's in engineering at Salesforce, realized like, oh, wow, I say sorry all the time, even when I don't need to. It's my way of softening the message. And so she used these phrases and made a practice to get rid of these phrases. Instead of get rid of saying sorry and using these replacement phrases. Within a week, she got feedback from her team that she was coming across so much stronger. Her ideas were more compelling. This seemingly simple change can be so powerful in how people perceive us. It makes us more persuasive. And number 3, co-creation. Co-creation is about getting people invested in your ideas. It's really being genuine about collaborating. You invite discussion and debate. That's what real buy-in requires. Co-creation is not sending your cross-functional partner a deck at 4 p.m. to get their feedback for a meeting at 8 a.m. the next day. That's not co-creation. Co-creation means you have enough time to get their feedback, to iterate, come up with a joint solution that everyone feels good about. And I want to call it here that you don't need to come out with the best idea. You need to execute on the best idea. People aren't going to remember that Jade came up with this idea. What they are going to for sure remember that Jade was on the team, or she led her team to execute on this great idea, to help the company achieve its revenue target, to help improve the customer experience, to solve a key problem. That's what people are going to remember. You work with smart, ambitious people. Leverage that. Use that to create even a better idea. And the great thing is, as you do this, you not only create a better idea, but you also make sure that people are fully bought into what you're sharing. That way, when there's problems down the line, which they always are, there's always projects and problems and projects, people aren't going to blame you. They were bought into the decision, they have a stake in it, and you're going to work together to solve things. You look better when you co-create. You can co-create in any situation, up, down, and across. You can co-create to get your managers buy-in on a direction that you think the company should take, that you think your team should take, to get alignment on a recommendation that you're pitching, to align on what are the goals that you should be working towards, what your team should be working towards. Even make sure everyone has a shared understanding of how a project is progressing. You can even get buy-in in small situations and co-create there. For example, solving a bug. Or let's say you have a daily stand-up or a weekly team check-in where everyone goes around and shares, what have you been working on? What are you going to work on today? And what problems are you facing? When you co-create even that during that stand-up, you're getting people bought in, and it's like, yes, you're spending your time the best way possible. You're driving an impact instead of them thinking like, I don't really know what she's doing all day long. That doesn't happen when you co-create. People understand the value that you're bringing. Now, one of the more difficult situations is to co-create with dominant personalities. Put a yes in the chat if you've had to work with dominant personalities. These are people who don't take your ideas seriously. They shut you down. Yes, okay, so much energy. Yes, this is a big topic for us in the leadership program also. When we interact with dominant personalities, it's stressful, it's intimidating, it's frustrating, shake my head, tightness in my chest. And yes, the yeses are still going. So I can tell this is like a hot topic for us. So here's 3 things you can do to help you work with dominant personalities. First, win their respect. If you can't do this, nothing else matters. Make sure when you go into your meetings with them that you're fully prepared, have the data, think about how are they going to receive the information. This is where storytelling comes in. If you know how to shape that narrative to make sure it clicks with that dominant personality, you're going to be more successful. A great way to win their respect is leveraging allies. So having your manager, for example, vouch for you, saying, Rose is the point person on this, we should definitely listen to her. Or Olga has had experience in this topic first, let's loop her in and make sure, and just like get her input on how we should approach this. Even in meetings, when you're going to someone that you find intimidating or you know doesn't really listen to what you have to say, use a colleague to help you create space for you to share. Tap them in advance and just be like, hey, I know we're talking about this idea. I have some thoughts. I have some experience and learnings I want to share. If I don't get a chance to jump in, do you mind just creating some space and so I can share my ideas? People are happy to help. They just don't proactively think about how they can create that space. So you can nudge them to help them do that. And third, don't take things personally. When you're engaging with a dominant personality or a difficult stakeholder, often they don't even realize that how they're making you feel. Maybe it's not about you. Maybe they're stressed at home. Maybe they have pressure at work, a certain goal that they need to hit. And they don't realize how it makes you feel. It can be empowering in itself just to recognize that, to tell yourself, this is not about me. This is something else they have going on. And I'm going to stick to storytelling and focusing on co-creating to make sure my idea really sticks with them. So I want to share about co-creation action. I'm going to call Caradine, I think, and she can share how she was able to use the program tools to help her co-create at work.
Thanks so much, Shivani. It is awesome to be here with all of you today. I loved Ascend, and I cannot recommend it enough. honestly, I got value in day one, and I mean, the time to value was lightning fast, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But Shivani touched a little bit on storytelling and presence as it relates to co-creation, and I'll hit a little bit more on co-creation, my experience with it in a bit, but wanted to share that messaging framework that Shivani talked a little bit about. It was released like week 1 of the program. And I decided to use it in one of my very next meetings. I'm always a skeptic, so let me just try this out and see how it works. So tried it out and got such a great response that it just gave me the courage to keep trying new things that were introduced to me throughout the program. But co-creation, that was a game changer for me, and I'll tell you why. So oftentimes I deal with teams where there's a lot of interdependencies. So I work with marketing, sales, development, and I wade through some pretty murky waters. We're talking SLAs that are not defined, processes and systems that, we're not even sure how they should be working, and just unclear expectations. And so again, the skeptic in me was just like, let me try this co-creation thing out. And it got to a point where I had to get to a solution, and I knew that I wasn't, more heads are better around a problem than my own head. So I decided to just introduce the golden question of co-creation, in my opinion. And you do this after presenting the facts of just, here's where we're at, team. This is our timeline. This is the key stakeholders. This is what we're up against. Here's the clearly defined problem. And so after all of that, I would just say, what would you do if you were me? How would you approach this solution if you were me? And it was awesome because that allows people to just bring in different perspectives and different opinions. And it resulted in just clear asks and people being enthusiastic around the problem and around the solution. And an interesting byproduct of this co-creation was my manager took notice, and they took notice of the way in which I was able to rally people together and get them to solve a problem with enthusiasm. So co-creation for me, that's a technique I still use today, and it was a game changer. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Carrie. So hopefully that gives you all a preview into like how you can apply co-creation to your own situation. That's so great. I'm so proud of like Carrie, how you applied that day 1 of the program. I remember like hearing her with me afterwards, like it worked. And we were, day 1 of the program. And so these things work and you can get really quick results. And so thanks so much for sharing how that worked with you. So, we talked about storytelling and presence and co-creation. And so in summary, these are the 6 ingredients to get buy-in. We dive into these ingredients in detail in the leadership program. We spend weeks diving into these to help people build habits, such as how Carrie just shared. In Ascend, we're all about action. So right now, I want to make sure that you find our time together right now really valuable. So I'm going to challenge you to a 7-day challenge. You're going to pick one thing that you want to do, a goal that you have for yourself, that you want to achieve in the next 7 days around storytelling or presence or co-creation. It can be anything, just put in the chat. So I'm going to play some music for you. We're going to have about 2 minutes, and you can pitch anything that you want around, create one goal that you want around this. So throw your goals in the chat around, like what's one goal you want to achieve around any of these 3 topics. Maybe for you, you're like, I want to practice being more concise. I want to create a narrative that really resonates with my audience. I want to stop saying sorry. I want to learn how to co-create. I want to build a habit around that. Whatever that is, put one goal in the chat that you want to achieve in the next 7 days. Don't overthink it. It can be anything. Co-creation for the win. Yes. Storytelling. I love that, Jenna. One suggestion I have is, making it really concrete. So what exactly about storytelling do you want to achieve? Because in Ascend, we really focus on like, let's break it down more to make sure you can actually achieve it in the next 7 days, or what are that timeline for you? So maybe for you, it's like, I'm going to create that narrative that resonates with my audience. I'm going to figure out what that means. Maybe you're going to be concise. Want to work on my executive presence, active listening. Super good. Love all these. Yeah, throw your goals in the chat. These are really, really good. I want to learn how to co-create with dominant personalities. Yes, that is always so painful and a huge win for people. Executive presence, perfect. Thanks for sharing these goals. So about 10 more seconds and we'll come back together. Create a strong presence within my community forum. Want to focus on active phrases versus passive and co-creating. I love how specific that is. That's great. Being able to tell a story where others see the value too. Yes, stop saying sorry, especially with dominant personalities. Perfect. Great. Well, wrap up your goals. You know, in Ascend, we're all about action and accountability. So if you want to hold yourself accountable, that's awesome. Go for it. I highly recommend that you get together with a group of women, ideally from different companies, so you get a diverse set of perspectives. In there, that way it becomes, not only do you have a diverse set of perspectives, you feel more comfortable sharing. Because you don't have to worry about any backlash. You don't have to worry about your reputation getting hurt at work. You can just openly share without worrying about hurting anyone's feelings. In Ascend, we handpick every member, and in the leadership program, we curate small groups that are high caliber but low ego women. Everyone has diverse perspectives, different set of experiences, but the same shared goals. And our members love it. So if you want to do this on your own, that's awesome. Go for it. If you want someone to do it for you, you're like, I'm busy and I want this like really high quality group, then I'd love to work with you in Ascend's leadership program. It is a 6-week online program where you'll develop the skills and the frameworks and the tool set to be able to get buy-in, motivate your teams, push back against dominant personalities, have difficult conversations, overcome imposter syndrome, and so much more. This program is really for you if you are someone who wants to have your ideas taken seriously. When you speak, people listen. You want people to seek out what you have to say. You want to stop feeling like an imposter. You're ready to feel a change. You're ready to feel more confident and really own what you have to bring to the table. You want to be an expert at getting buy-in. You want stakeholders to come to you for your opinion. You want to be able to seamlessly have people support your ideas and value your ideas at all levels, whether it's your team, senior leadership, cross-functional partners. And you want to build habits around that. You want that to be natural for you. And you're ready to move up faster. You're ready to accelerate. You're ready to get to that next level sooner. If this is for you, then the program is a great fit. The program is unique for 3 key reasons. First is a focus on actionable learnings. Everything we will do in the program will have a clear step-by-step playbook of what to do, including how do you handle situations that don't go well, as they often do. How the program works is every week we'll go through a new module. You'll have video lessons that you watch at your own pace. Then we'll come together for 2 live sessions. The first sessions is on Tuesday mornings, PST. We'll review case studies. You'll go into breakout rooms with 1 or 2 other people, where you'll review the challenges, talk about what are situations you're facing, how can you apply the learnings to that? And then we'll have Q&A as a group. The second session is on circles. So that's on Thursdays. And that's where you have a really intimate discussion with a curated small group of your peers. People love circles so much that they often continue meeting with their group even after the program finishes. After these live sessions, you'll have exercises that you apply directly to your work because we learn the best by doing. The second thing that makes the program unique is the community. So you've already gotten a peek into some of our members who are awesome. It's an opportunity to connect with a group of women like you, high caliber, but low ego. It's such a safe space. It's been powerful for our members to realize, oh, wow, I'm not alone. A bunch of other smart, qualified women face the same problems that I do. You have to learn how other people tackle situations or what problems they come up with that you haven't yet, but you will in the future. If you remember back to school, college, elementary school, someone asks a question and you're like, oh yeah, I have the same question. I hadn't thought about that. That happens all the time in the leadership program. Everyone has similar experiences. You get to see like, okay, how can I tackle it? So you learn faster. We'll also talk about some biases that you might face as a woman leader in the workplace. And because our community is so awesome, you get to be part of our alumni community even after you finish the program. So you can stay connected with the people you went through the program with and with people in the past and future cohorts. Continue to share your wins, ask questions, join our community events. And the third thing that makes it really unique is our accountability. So for most of us, we have the best of intentions to develop a new habit, but then day-to-day just gets in the way. And so we've designed the program to help make sure that you do achieve your goals through exercises, accountability buddies. Even a few weeks after we complete the program, we have an accountability check-in, a bonus session, where now that you've had more time to apply the learnings, let's check back in and see how you're doing. What new questions do you have? Where are you getting stuck? What progress have you made? And we've designed it so even people with busy schedules can accommodate it. We have full-time, we have working moms, we have people who have really busy work schedules, and we've designed it to make sure that you are able to stay on track. So today I've shared stories with women from all different companies and about how they grew, how they got promoted, how they were able to actually start influencing at work. Carradine shared her story there about how they became better leaders and just 10x their performance at work. Now, if you found this really valuable and you're like, I want to spend a few weeks really developing habits around this is just a sneak peek into what we did in the program. And so if you want to develop habits around this, you want to be a natural habit for you to get buy-in in any situation. You want to learn how to lead your teams. You want to gain confidence. You want to know how to rally stakeholders and get people excited about your ideas. Then I'd love to work with you in the leadership program that starts at the end of June. I love how the group is shaping up. We have women from all over the world, from companies like Google and Amazon, Slack, Stripe, a ton of startups joining. The program tuition is $1,995. Many people are able to expense the program fee. So if you want, you can just email us and we can send you a sample letter that you can use to request professional development budget and reimbursement from your company. Many people also pay out of pocket because they view this as an investment in themselves. So if you're feeling like I'm ready to take that next leap, I'm ready for that change, I'm ready to level up, then this could be a really, really great fit for you. Now let me call up Ellie and she'll share more about how she's grown, how she's been able to apply the learnings. And then after that, we'll dive into Q&A. So continue dropping any questions in the Q&A icon that is in the bottom right of your screen. Welcome, Ellie.
Hey, Shivani. Thanks for walking through all of that. It's nice to see all you on the webinar. Shivani asked me today to come and talk about my experience with Ascend. I went through the program about mid-2020. So around the summertime, we were all hitting the real pandemic wall, realizing this is going to go on for a very, very long time. And my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I went to business school. I have an MBA, but I still found a lot of value in Ascend. And for me, it was the validation in other women. We were coming together weekly, talking about things that everybody experiences. How do you deal with dominant personalities? How do you deal with managers who can't clearly describe their expectations for you and manage up? What are some things that you can do to identify and dismantle imposter syndrome? And for me, the big takeaway was being able to be vulnerable with these women and have other folks I was talking to say, yeah, I deal with that too. You're not out of your mind. That's normal. And here's how I deal with it. Here's how I cope with it. Here's some tactics that worked for me. So taking away from the program, just that experience that really boosted my self-esteem. And I've come back as an alumni mentor a few times because still every time in these circles, there's so much to learn. Somebody brings a new perspective every time. And Shivani's material is awesome, but for me, the value is that material plus the community, because everyone in it is bringing something, and it's the effect of playing off of each other that really makes it valuable. And the connections that you make for new jobs or helping you go for promotions is just the cherry on top.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ellie. With that, let's dive into Q&A. So you can ask any questions you have around getting buy-in, around the program, whatever is most helpful to you. So I see a question around that fear of disagreement and dissent is me. Thanks for sharing that. What are your tips to recommend, especially for someone who's a more quiet leader and wants to build on these strengths versus fake it until you make it, which just isn't me? I Totally hear that. I think we get that question a lot in the program, and it has also around, often it's also around like, how do I balance being nice versus a leader, or direct versus a leader? And one thing to think about is just like, why are those two things actually in conflict with each other? When we think of the best leaders, not only are they great storytellers, but they're also able to make decisions and drive things forward. So really like questioning, and we do a lot of like reflection around that, like, what do we want our leadership style to be? In the program, you create your brand. What do you want your reputation at work to look like? One thing you can do here is, I would say, for the fear of disagreement, if you know how to storytell, if you're able to come in and shape a message which really shapes your audience, which really resonates with your audience, then you're going to have less chances of pushback. You're going to be able to really, like, they're going to receptive to what you're saying. And you're going to feel more confident going to the situation. So you're not going to be so fearful of the disagreement. And that's why, Ellie and Katie, how they're talking about how they've grown for the program. It's like knowing how to handle these situations. So when you go into it, even with dominant personalities, when you go into it, you feel comfortable because you're like, okay, I know that if they're going to push back on me, here's what I'm going to respond with. Here's how I'm going to practice. And I've already practiced it in a sense. We've done the role plays. We have, like, I've talked it out with my group. So now I'm ready. And then after the program, you're like, wait, I've gone through this scenario before. I've seen this scenario. I'm more comfortable. So I would really say for that approach, it's really reflecting, like, ours is that, like pushing back or like kind of showing up stronger. How is that really in conflict with maybe what kind of leader you want to be? And two, understanding how to storytell can be really key, where it's not about faking it until you make it. You actually come in with a strategic approach to make sure everyone has understands what you're saying, understands the value in what you're sharing. Thanks for that question. That was really great. Any other questions? Feel free to throw it in the chat. Zoom makes it so easy to be seen and heard via chat hub, but once we return to a post-COVID world, that social distance we've been practicing might have manifested into social anxiety. Yes. How do you remain visible at work if you're not the loudest person in the room or the first person to speak in a larger group? I love that question. I think that's so true. I know even for me, like, going back into like socializing, it just feels awkward. And you're like, I don't really remember this. Like, whoa, that person's so close to me right now. So that is a real transition. I do think that, when we go back, we will feel much comfortable, much faster. We'll get adjusted pretty quickly. And this is something that so we have a lot of self-described introverts in the program, a lot of people who are shy, who describes them as quiet leaders, just like the question that we just got. And so, one, it can be empowering itself just to get to meet other people like that. You're like, oh, I'm not alone. Okay, this is the strategy that works for you. Or like, there's nothing wrong with me. It's, like there's a bunch of people like me and we can all succeed. Two, it's that storytelling piece, that getting buy-in piece, like knowing when you come into a meeting, you don't have to be the loudest person, but you should be the one who has a strategic approach on getting people to follow your ideas. So when you pitch an idea, you're not going to win them over by being loud verbally. You're going to win them over by showing, like, here's how I think we should go about it, and here's why you should care about it. It takes habit, it takes practice to build that muscle, but that's how you would go do it. And that's how, I remember last year, one of our Ascend members, Asta, went through the program. She's now an alumni mentor for us. So she comes and like helps with part of the program. And really, like, she had shared that she was really quiet in meetings with senior leadership, or where she didn't really feel comfortable. She didn't want to be wrong or like, come across as stupid or just like speak. It just wasn't her style. She's a quieter personality. And so she would always like not say anything in the meeting, and then she would like go grab the person afterwards and share her idea. And that just wasn't as effective. She wasn't building that credibility in that meeting. It was creating slower processes. And so for her, what she found worked really well is like, we actually, like, one of the modules we talk about, like, what do you do if you're not comfortable speaking up? And one of the things is tying back to that storytelling piece is like preparing, figuring out what your message will look like, using the message prep worksheet in advance. So when you do go into that meeting, you know exactly what you're going to say, you know how people might push back, and you're ready for an answer. It doesn't mean you have to be the loudest person in the room. It doesn't mean you have to speak up first. But once you have that prep work, you will be surprised, pleasantly surprised, by how much more confident it makes you feel. This has been really great questions. I have loved the energy in the group. Thank you so much for joining today. Lily will drop the link to join the program. Actually, when you apply for the program, you can just mention that you attend this workshop, so then we'll expedite your application. The early decision deadline is this Friday, so if you want to get in before then, that's your best chance of coming into the program. Just mention that you joined the program, and like I said, we'll expedite your application. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. You can reach me at shivani@weascend.co. And we can also share that sponsorship letter if you're interested in doing that. That being said, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. Carity and Ellie, thanks for sharing your experiences. And to all of you, love the energy in the chat again. Loved all your sharing and comments and questions. And take care. We will share the recording of this. And please, again, reach out if we can help with any way. Stay well, everyone. Take care. Bye.